Good evening. I'm your host, Dan Stafford with the Midwestern Geek in Cali. This is episode 103. I had a dream about the Cybertruck and a massive load of news. This episode is huge. There's so much that happened this week, and I'm going to do a little bit different with the format with the show notes this week. So I've got a lot to cover and a lot of ground to cover. Just want to thank everyone for hanging in there and watching the show. I appreciate your time, and I've got some really fun stuff and some really interesting stuff and just a lot of it. So coming up, probably a little towards the end, I did literally have a dream about the Cybertruck on Monday night, Tuesday morning, and I'll get into that. It was kind of a fun one, a little cool and unusual. I do have a little bit of occasional sci-fi dreams, and just digging my new sweatshirt. Thank you, DXL. I'm a big dude, 6'6", 320 pounds roughly, a little bit under that, and I have to go to DXL for my clothes, and there's no way around it. So next, let's see if I can kill this notification stuff real quick, because this is getting annoying. Let's see here. I've got notifications on. Let's just plain turn them off for the moment. All right, and now I can turn that stuff back on after. And sorry, got to wipe my glasses here. This is going to require an extended amount of reading on my part, and I've got an awful lot of stories for you. So give me a minute, and I'll get right into it, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this thing. So let's get a little bit of infinity screen going here. Infinity screen. Yeah, I love saying that. All right, so let's go. First off, I'm going to stop by the website. Here we go. Midwestern Geek in Cali. This is our blog, and it's hosted on Blogspot. It's a blogger blog, which is pretty old school, but I'm an elder geek. I've been geeking for a long time, and I love working with blogger blogs. They're pretty cool and fun and enjoyable, and you can find all of our past episodes here, including the audio only for the most part. If there's any of them you run into you can't get to, there may be ones I haven't uploaded the audio where it needs to be, so feel free to drop me a note and let me know. There is over here, you can just click on the logo here for the show, and you can hit me up, or you can just email me, midwesterngeekandcali@gmail.com. It's right there. And of course, links to our social media, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Everything's right here. You can get here by going to midwesterngeekandcali.com. All right, and on Twitter at MidwestGeek at MidwestGeek-Cali, and definitely we would appreciate anyone watching on YouTube to subscribe. If you're a YouTube user, please subscribe to the channel. That helps. And otherwise, let's get into some of the fun for this week. So I've got things separated out into zones. Let me take a quick peek here, and I think we're going into the computing and networking zone first. So up from Tom's Guide, Best Google Chrome Extensions. Improve your experience with these top Chrome extensions. There's some pretty good ones in here. And let's see, CRX mouse gestures, not so much what I was interested in. FlowCrypt, print friendly and PDF, Google Arts and Culture. That one I really like, Google Arts and Culture. I think that one's really worth taking a quick peek. I'm not that big on the ad blocker stuff. And the Great Suspender. The Great Suspender is a really good one to read too. Helps with memory hogging. And if you can see how many tabs I have open here, I think it might be a really cool idea for me to get this thing installed in Chrome. I haven't done it yet, so I'm going to hang on to this particular tab just for that reason, to go back to it. As always, I encourage you to go through and read these articles. Next one up from Windows Latest, everything new in Windows 10, next major update. So this will be the 2004. This will be the one coming out this spring. So you might want to go over here and take a peek. There are some things coming up with Cortana, etc. In reinstalling Windows is going to be easier. Windows Subsystem for Linux version 2, etc. The updates to Task Manager. There's a lot of stuff coming in this release, so I definitely encourage you to come over and take a peek. And remember, I always have show notes that go with these episodes. When this episode gets posted on the blog, the show notes will be there, and every one of these articles will be linked. This is going to be a nice long post for those of you who follow by email. I know there's one or two. There's going to be a lot of links in there, so keep your eyes peeled. And again, everything that I bring up on here is going to be linked in the show notes. So let's clear that. 6 clever Gmail tricks to cut down on regret, frustration, and spam. This is cool. These are some pretty cool things that you can do with Gmail. Some of them I didn't even realize. So some real fun tricks. Unsending, unlimited aliases, sort of. Now, this is cool. You can use different versions of your Gmail and with your existing Gmail account. And we're not talking about creating a new account. It's a different way to send and stuff. Different way to share your address that allows you to also filter incoming email by the replies. That is a pretty cool trick, and I'm going to spend a little time figuring out how that really works. It looks to be extremely useful, so this article I'd strongly recommend coming in just for that alone. Now, Ubuntu 20.04 Focal Fossa, release date and upcoming features. So this is going to tell you about what the schedule looks like, but you're looking at spring of 2020 for the next long-term stable release of Ubuntu. This 20.04 looks like it's got some really cool stuff in it. So if you're into Linux and you like Ubuntu, Eric, you're the first one that told me about Ubuntu. This might be an article you'd be interested in, so definitely hit the show notes and check this out. Also note that they said in here in the article that 16.04 is probably nearing end of support. Not right away, but they usually support these long-term stable releases for about 10 years. But if you are running 18.04 LTS, you'll be able to, or the 19.10 kind of beta version that was getting previews of stuff in this, you'll be able to directly upgrade to 20.04 LTS. But if you're still running 16.04 LTS, you're going to need to upgrade to 18.04 first before you'll be able to upgrade to 20.04. So you're going to have two upgrades to do. My suggestion would be 18.04 is a really good OS version, so if your hardware is up for it, I would go for it. I am also thinking that It's not going to be too much longer where there's going to be LTS releases available for 32-bit hardware. I think that's going to end up going away soon, so I'm pretty quick here going to drop in on Ubuntu and download a 32-bit ISO from the most recent possible stable release for 32-bit, because if I want to resurrect any 32-bit machines that are stuck on Vista and 7 and etc., I'm going to want to probably switch them over to Linux, and we'll talk about a little bit more about Linux coming down at the end of the episode. There's something special I want to talk about that but at the very end of this episode. But I'd suggest if you want to have a 32-bit ISO floating around, I think there's still a 32-bit ISO available for 18.04. I'd suggest grabbing a copy of it while you can still get pretty modern Linux 32-bit ISO. So go ahead and go for that. And again, come in and check this out, get the dates and some of the features coming up in Ubuntu. It's pretty cool. Now, Gizmodo, they have an article here that I love. You should hoard physical copies of the video games you love. They are talking about the fact that when you buy a digital copy only of anything, basically you're leasing that. It's not like you own it, like you own a physical whatever, you know, like a CD, DVD, game cartridge, etc. So if you have those game cartridges and you love them, you better hang on to them, and your older game controllers too. It's really good idea. Come in and dig into the article a little bit. I love the retro feel of this one. So and I think on that note, we are about to get into, well, the only thing that I didn't call a zone. This is going to be space, the final frontier. Okay, so SpaceX is set to launch more Starlink satellites this week. How to watch. This article was from last Sunday, so I think this launch got scrubbed. Ooh, get out of there. Anyway, that's fun. You go to close an ad and they bring it up. Nice. Not. Anyway, so I think this particular launch got scrubbed, but it's going to be rescheduled. You might want to check back on this. It's a CNET article. Notice CNET over here in the left corner, and they'll probably update this. Also, another place to look would be Spaceflight Now, but they tend to, with like launch videos and watching live video of launches and stuff like that, they want you to purchase a premium membership over at Spaceflight Now. Now, don't get me wrong, Spaceflight Now is one of the best space news websites out there, but the free version is a little more limited to text and picture articles, but there are very few ads on the thing, and there's not a lot of pop, bang, flash, bang, you know, attention diverting pop-ups and blinky winky, all this kind of stuff. You know, this is one of the things that, being somebody who grew up in a world of paper, and that's what I like to call it before internet came around. I call it the world of paper, or paper world. We did everything on paper, and although magazines had ads and stuff like that, it was much more like a static banner ad, not these constantly blinking, moving, scrolling. Those are the most distracting damn things. And as far as the internet goes, I am not a fan of so many US websites that have all these distractive things. It's very difficult to get into the meat of what you actually came to an article for and stay focused on it with all that winky blinky stuff. Yeah, and so just saying, but look for a reprise of this article from CNET. You may be able to find some info on this on Spaceflight Now, but hopefully CNET will update the launch, how to watch the launch. Pretty cool. And let's move on over. Nice. See what I mean about those stupid ads? Anyway, SpaceX successfully tests escape system on a new spacecraft while destroying a rocket. Now, this is a big deal, and there's some good video here. This was making sure that they could escape from rocket launch failure with that Crew Dragon capsule, and this is getting them ready. Excuse me. A lot of talking, not enough caffeine. But anyway, this is getting them ready to actually do manned spaceflight. That is coming up for SpaceX really soon. So you'll start seeing very shortly here manned spaceflight going up to the International Space Station, etc., from U.S. soil, which has not happened in quite a few years. We've been heavily reliant, almost totally reliant on the Russians, and I'm not even sure we've been able to use the European Space Agency to get up there. I'd have to dig into that to find out if that's the case. But we'll be able to launch from the U.S., and there's a couple other companies that are also getting ready to do manned launches as well, but I think SpaceX is going to be the first one, and I think it'll be this year. So, cool article, and definitely some stuff to dig into there. All right, here we go. SpaceX again. They are dominating the space news right now. The SpaceX readies 2020 satellite broadband launch, and Amazon's not far behind. So the thing that I absolutely love about this article is they're about to kick the telecom companies and cable companies right in the nards on pricing and stuff. I am so looking forward to this because they are going to be long term probably faster and a lot cheaper. You're probably talking like 10 to 15 bucks a month for gigabit internet. And this is an article from the Motley Fool, which is a financial website. So they're coming at it from a financial perspective, and as you can see from the first paragraph here, they're talking about this could be fatal for telecoms and cable companies. So yeah, this is definitely well worth a read. If you've had it with cable companies and you're looking for some karma to head their direction, this might give you a hint at what I've been talking about for months now, that these guys are going to get their butts handed to them by these satellite internet companies, and I am looking well forward to it. Okay, and here we go. We have SpaceX in the news again. Elon Musk reveals how he'll deposit 1 million people on Mars by 2050. Now, we're not joking here. He is really serious about this. They're talking about putting 1 million people on a Mars colony and really fully colonizing the red planet in a permanent fashion, and also the moon as well. And this has to do, of course, with Starship. Now, I've read another article on Starship. I think I might have even had that article in last week. Let me see here. All right, so Elon, here we go. Episode 102, and yeah, 20 to 30 years service life. That's the one in particular. This is this article is covering basically the same topic from a little bit different perspective. So just come over and check this out, because it is going to be huge, and I don't think this is a pipe dream. I think this guy is really going to do it. You know, this is one place where I definitely agree with our president in that this guy is definitely a genius in his own right, and he's the type of genius, like in some ways he reminds me of Steve Jobs, but better. He's got a tech vision, but he's also been able to do it in a way that it's self-funding. and he's kind of a minor miracle for the future of humanity. I totally agree with Elon Musk in the fact that right now, so to speak, all of our eggs are in one basket. If this planet gets hit by a comet or an asteroid of sufficient size, humanity is wiped out. And you know, putting a colony on another planet gives us an insurance policy. I strongly support what Musk is trying to do with the Mars colony. Now, I'm a little bit on the old side to be emigrating to another planet, but there's some interesting stuff, and he's even talking about financial support for people to go to Mars and colonize. Of course, if you're building an entire new planet from scratch, you're talking jobs, you know, left, right, and sideways. I mean, there wouldn't be such a thing as unemployment for quite a long time on Mars because the entire planet would have to be built out. So I think this is a massive story that's not getting anywhere near the serious attention that it should be. I mean, you're seeing it on science and science fiction sites, but people have an air of disbelief around it, and I think that's flat wrong. I think this is going to be a big deal, and this is very important for the future, and it's going to happen way faster than people realize. So come on over and check it out. Go back to episode 102, check those two stories out and put the three together, and I think you're going to find an interesting vision of the future thanks to Elon Musk. I'm really impressed with this guy, and in a lot of ways. Now, no, is he perfect? No, he's not. He's a human being. He overworks the hell out of himself, and he tends to fly off the handle and be just a little bit of a loose cannon, but maybe in such a way that it brings publicity. And there's an old saying that is kind of cliche nowadays, but there's no such thing as bad publicity. Well, I think Musk is kind of pretty good at that. So, but he's also very good at making future tech happen despite the blockages in our culture. So this is a cool story, and it, along with the other two from the previous episode, I think are well worth a read. So let's go. And here we go, space.com. This is not SpaceX related. This is kind of interesting, but they're talking about Terminator Tape did its job in space junk test, and it will be back. So this is kind of like an add-on to a CubeSat, but what they did was they worked on a new technique to test deorbiting a satellite. And of all the people that would do this, I'll give you one guess who it was that did this. And if you've made your guess, all right. So here it is. It's the Planetary Society. They did this. Remember when they were working on doing that solar sailing test with their satellite? Well, this is the same satellite. The solar sailing test was a success. They proved that solar sails could work. They actually were able to raise the orbit of their satellite with a solar sail, not like a full-blown solar sail, but one big enough to at least prove the concept. And it was a proof of concept satellite, not meant to go sailing around the solar system. Doggone it. But anyway, this Terminator Tape, basically it's like a 260-meter long tail dragging, like a kite tail almost. But it's also conductive tape, and it used magnetics and conductive tape to dramatically increase the drag on the satellite. And so they increased its deorbit time of the satellite by 24 times. Why is that important? Because leaving old dead satellites in orbit is causing a huge problems as far as space junk smashing into new actual functional hardware and equipment into space. So what this would do would be to give the world a very cheap way to deorbit defunct satellites, get them out of orbit so that they burn up in the atmosphere and do not destroy new functional spacecraft, satellites, space stations in orbit, etc. This is a good thing, and it's a responsible thing in the space industry, and I'm glad this test was a success. And you gotta applaud the Planetary Society. They're publicly funded nonprofit, and they were able to do some pretty amazing proof of concept stuff on a very tight budget. They had a failure about a decade or so ago, but they have come back from that in a big way, and my hat's off to them. I mean, Planetary Society, thank you, and keep on trucking there. Now, let's go on to our next one. This one's kind of fun. President Trump was tweeting again, and he revealed the logo for the Space Force. And yeah, motherboard Vice is not too Trump friendly. I don't want to get into all that, but I think they have a point here. This is the Starfleet logo, and here's the new Space Force logo. Yeah, yeah. Now, that being said, I do think the new Space Force logo is kind of cool. Anyway, all right, so just a little bit of fun there. And let's get rid of that. And now we're in the energy zone. All right, the energy zone. So this is from Interesting Engineering. Near infinite lasting power sources could derive from nuclear waste. Now, what they're talking about is using nuclear waste embedded in diamonds to create batteries that will give off power for thousands of years. And it will trap the radiation, and it'll be such a small amount of radioactive material it won't be dangerous. And this is a really interesting story, because imagine a watch that could last for generations running on this little tiny diamond battery and never need to be wound, never need a new battery, never have to be opened up again. Cell phones that run for years and years and years until the hardware fails on an existing battery. All kinds of very interesting things could be done with these things, and it would be also a good way to get rid of nuclear waste. So I think this is a cool story. I think thorium reactors to devolve nuclear waste transmuted into a lot less radioactive stuff might not be a bad idea to do alongside this. But very interesting, very forward-thinking, and something there's way too much of, making it useful instead of deadly. I hope this pans out, and I'm interested, and I'm hoping to see more about this one in the future. So next up, we're in the health zone. All right, health zone here. Harnessing the immune system to fight cancer could treat all forms of the disease. This is really interesting, because what is going on here is they have found a new form of immune system white blood cell. One that it's a different one than the ones that we know, like the killer T cells and stuff like this. And they think there's a way to use these new white blood cells to actually get them to attack almost all forms of cancer. Very interesting article. This is over on Yahoo News. I strongly suggest folks go over and take a peek at this one. And another one in the health zone here. Let's go to continue to cite. And UAB scientist studies aging through gray hair, says hair could be rejuvenated. We're talking about getting rid of gray hair. And this is stem cell stuff. It's pretty interesting. It's on Birmingham Real-Time News. And this is legit. She may have a way to put an end to gray hair. It sounds like, from what I read in the article, that there was a topical ointment type treatment that you could use that would stimulate hair growth and end gray hair. It seems to have worked in mice, so there's definitely more to be read in the article, more detail on stuff on this, but I think this is really cool and pretty awesome, actually. As I'm getting into my 50s, late 50s, I'm gonna, to be honest, I'm gonna hit 60 in 2 years. I've got a little bit of gray going on too. I managed to not go super gray yet. But there's some in there for sure, and well, I think this would be cool. So go over and check out the article. Now, we're in the finance zone here. Stationery chain Papyrus is filing for bankruptcy and closing all of its stores, impacting more than 1,000 jobs. This is sad news for me. These guys are around in malls. There's one here in Temecula. They have beautiful cards. I know people don't send cards much anymore. They do, electronic communications for birthdays and Christmas and all that stuff. There are still places where cards are pretty common, but they're really, really pretty beautiful, well thought out, well written stuff. And it's going to be hard to find anything of that quality, especially for an occasion where you really want a nice card as a nice touch. Some of the really high-end custom stationery and papers that you could get through Papyrus. And here's what this kind of set this thought off in me. Seeing this with Papyrus and seeing how so many retail chains are either struggling or going under. They say you can replace it online, but you can't go online and pick something up in your hands and touch it and feel it. And certainly you can't try on clothes online before you buy them. You have to have them sent to you and then wait and get them and then try them on after you got them and deal with returns and refunds if they don't fit. And to me, I mean, there's certain things like food and clothing that just don't lend themselves well to online shopping. And it reminds me too, because so many of the chains now, they carry like 1 or 2 copies of anything on their store shelves. I go into stores now and I try to find things that I'm used to getting, and half the time they're out of it. They don't stock nearly enough in inventory. This is so common, and I can kind of feel like this is a little bit of karma going on here, because I remember when I was a kid in the 70s, I want to say I was high school age, and there was this story going around one year about how all the grocery stores and shopping stores and stuff over in the Soviet Union had bare shelves. They were always out of everything. Uh, and here we are in the USA, and not only are store shelves short stocked in our stores, but our stores are just plain freaking closing. And I'm sorry, but online shopping just is not enough of a replacement. This doesn't strike me as overall long-term a good thing. It's very worrying to me, and I feel bad for the people who are losing their jobs because of this. And I think we're going to lose something that may be a little bit intangible, but the experience of going to the mall and shopping and all that stuff, it's just such a classic middle class experience. It's such a now, in my teens and 20s, I used to love going to the mall. Not some necessarily just for shopping, but just, to see all the people around and people watch and be around crowds and pick things up and get ideas for new things that I might want to pick up or buy eventually, or there's something about it that kind of is stimulating and sparks creativity, and it's very tactile and visual in a way that online is not, especially the tactile part. And there's just something said for things actually being there rather than just pictures of them. So there's a whole ball of emotion and I'm not destitute over this. That's not what I'm saying. But there's it's like a piece of our culture is dying, and papyrus is just another straw on the camel's back. I don't think this is a good thing, and I feel bad for the folks with their jobs, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. But just not cool. But there you go. All right. So now this is the Tesla zone. All right. And with Tesla, there's a lot of really cool stories coming out. I've talked a little bit about this before. Clean Technica has an article here asking if Tesla's a step closer to the 1 million mile battery. I think this is a big freaking deal, and Tesla has done some stuff in the battery industry that's just really going gangbusters, and it's a big deal. This article and another one that is coming up here shortly are well worth a read. I think it's a big deal, so pay attention. And if you're following electrical vehicles and just clean energy in general, and improvements in batteries and the waste of batteries when they're done, a 1 million mile battery would be a big deal, and it would be a big deal in electric semis. Huge deal. So come on over and give this one a check out. And let's get over to this one. Tesla Cybertruck is incredibly cheap to bring to production. Now, I've been talking a little bit about the genius of engineering of this. So this shape looks very kind of simplified in a lot of ways, but while you're at it, it also has an extremely low coefficient of drag. And because of the way it's designed, I think the design of this thing is genius, and they're saying it's going to be about a third of the cost to manufacture of a typical pickup truck. That's a pretty huge deal. I mean, that could lead to a very large profit margin on this thing. And I think this is going to be overall a win for Tesla. I think the longer I look at it, the more I actually am kind of falling for it a little bit. I wish I had the $70K to plop down for a 500-mile range version of it, to be honest. This is a truck that geeks could definitely love, but it's also pretty badass in a lot of ways. I mean, the towing capacity, the ability to use it as a camper and haul stuff, and it's supposed to be very roomy inside. I'm kind of digging the Cybertruck a little bit. I know a lot of people have said it's like ugly and boxy, but I tend to disagree. It's something new under the sun, and I think there's a lot more genius under the hood than what people realize. So come on over and and check this article on Electric out. I really respect Electric and their take on electric vehicles, and they've had a couple of good articles on the Cybertruck, and this is definitely one of them that's up there. So get over and check it out. And then Tesla and their battery acquisitions are paying off in spades and giving rivals a lot of pain. This is from Tesla Roddy. They talk nothing but Tesla all the time. Excuse me. A little bit of geek fuel needed here. Like I said, a lot of ground to cover in this episode. So Tesla has been buying up smaller battery manufacturing companies, from what I'm gathering, and each of them has a technology angle to bring to the table to improve batteries. And then with their gigafactories and uh, battery production plants, this is a big deal. This is a big leg up for Tesla over their rivals. And the article here is talking about problems that people like Daimler and other car companies are having with electric vehicles because Tesla's got so much of an advantage in battery tech and battery production. I think again, this is just kind of proven the point that I was making earlier, that there's definitely a kind of genius to the stuff that Elon Musk is doing, despite his foibles on Twitter. So very, very interesting stuff. And this is going to get me into something that is kind of behind the title for this episode. So yeah, I had a dream about the Cybertruck. In my dream, the Cybertruck was bigger on the inside than on the outside, like a TARDIS. There was a living room, a couple of bedrooms, a bathroom, a basement, a bar, a utility closet, and a driver's compartment for 4. And it was like when you climbed into the Cybertruck, which on the outside was like a regular size Cybertruck, right? But on the inside, it was like walking into a super yacht. It was kind of like the TARDIS on Doctor Who. It was really cool. This is a literal dream that I had. And in the dream, it was kind of like I was being given an evaluation ride for the Cybertruck. Now, the Cybertruck is supposed to be roomy, and this is a dream. So, so take it for what it is. It was a dream. So Elon Musk was driving the Cybertruck, and there were a few other people in there. And the dream started out, I was exploring the interior of the Cybertruck, and then I went up into the cab where the driver's compartment, and I was kind of watching us roll down the path here, and Elon was driving us down a really heavily mudded track, and this truck was just like going through it like a boat through water. It was incredible. And on either side were these big menacing trees, and giant pythons were coming down out of the trees and trying to attack the Cybertruck, and they couldn't get in. They couldn't do nothing to it because it's so stout on the exterior, that bulletproof metal and everything. And so it just plowed right through and went on by. And then we ended up driving through this small town in the foothills of the mountains, and then got out on a dirt road and started heading up a 4-wheeler trail going up the side of this mountain. And then this trail got like really steep. I mean, we're talking like probably a 70-degree angle steep, super steep. And it was kind of on the scary side, and this truck just kept going and going, and there were Jeeps coming back down either side of us because they couldn't make it up the thing. And this thing just kept going up to the top. And in the dream, it got to the top of the mountain, and at the top of the mountain, it kind of like the front right wheel got tucked over this rock at the peak of the mountain, and we were hanging there. And I opened the hatch on the front of the Cybertruck, and I mean, it's a dream. That front Cybertruck doesn't really have a hatch on the front. It might be like a windshield, or a side window where you could open. But in the dream, there was a hatch that you could open, and I'm kind of like standing up there looking out the hatch, and we're hanging on the peak of this mountain, and I'm looking. It's nighttime by now in the dream. and all around on the ground below, there's all these little small towns out in the desert, and their lights are on and everything, and then all of a sudden everything starts shaking. It's like an earthquake. The whole mountain is shaking like an earthquake, and it was kind of frightening, but and everything was okay. The thing ended. It wasn't like a major disaster type earthquake, but it was a fairly good shaker. And then after it was over, Elon started backing the truck down the road and down the path, back down the mountain, and we're heading down the mountain and everything's fine, and then all of a sudden my alarm went off. And so it was a cool dream, lots of fun, but it was just a dream. So anyway, so that's an end to the Tesla zone. Now we're in the SciFi Fun zone, and this is an article on Laughing Squid, how to make an origami Star Wars X-Wing starfighter. Now, I'm a fan of the Origami Yoda books, and this thing is right up my geek alley. I love it. I'm a huge Star Wars and Star Trek fan. I'm going to have to try this for myself. Matter of fact, this is one of the tabs that I'm going to keep open after the show is over so that I can watch this video when I get done putting the episode up online. But this looks like a ton of fun. So if you're into Star Wars and you like origami a little bit and you're into all that kind of really super cool geek stuff, here's some for you. Come over and check it out. It'll be linked in the show notes. Now, let's get over to one from IO9 from Gizmodo. This is Gizmodo's IO9 website, and that's IO like input output, not like I0. IO9, not I09. All right, so just be aware of that. It's a subdomain of Gizmodo, and it's dedicated to sci-fi, entertainment, and stuff like that. So this is cool. This Star Trek Online ship is slowly breaking my brain. And it is a cool mix of a Klingon bird of prey and a Star Trek Starfleet heavy cruiser. So I encourage you strongly to come over. If you're a Star Trek fan, come over and check this out, because you will definitely live long and prosper in your geekness if you check this one out. It's so much fun. It's a really fun, cool article, and come on over and dig in. All right, and finally, in the Sci-Fi Fun Zone, we're going to say relax in the warm bath, warm TV bath of the Orval. Now, I'm not going to go into what the article covers. It's an interview, I believe, with a lot of opinions about the Orval, but I love that title, Relax in the Warm TV Bath of the Orval. And here's where I'm coming from with this. To me, the Orval, it's been likened to Star Trek with dick jokes. Yeah, I can kind of see that. It's got a much more humorous angle than Star Trek had, although Star Trek did have a little bit of humor to it. This is a little more so. But it kind of picks up in the vacuum that Star Trek created when we lost the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. That particular era of Star Trek, especially Star Trek Next Gen, that show was canceled at the height of its popularity. It was the most popular show with males between the ages of 19 and 45 at the time it was canceled in syndication. Love Star Trek Next Gen. I really missed it when it went off the air. And to me, the Orville kind of is a little bit filling the vacuum that's left. It's not the Next Generation. But it's got so many elements of it that I mean, this is genius. You know, I love the Orville. It's a fun show. I also love the hopeful, serious sci-fi that Star Trek was doing. I haven't watched the stuff on CBS All Access because, to be honest, I just can't afford another freaking streaming channel. There's just too many of them already, and we need to keep the bills within reason, so I just have not been able to do the new Star Trek shows on CBS All Access. I'm just not up for paying for another streaming service. Sad to say, but that's the way it is right now. And the Orval kind of fills a void. It's moving to Hulu, and that is one of the streaming services we do have already. So definitely come over and check this article out. It's a lot of fun. It's a good interview. It's witty, and this is kind of one of my favorite TV shows that's getting ready to come back on. I really am grateful for this being around in the lack of Trek in my life currently. So on that note, I'm going to wind this episode up and maybe keep dreaming of a Cybertruck in my future someday. And I will say happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42. And may there never be a rogue wave in your coffee mug. And everybody, thanks for stopping in. Again, if you can, hit on that YouTube channel and hit subscribe. I really appreciate it if you do that. Thank you for all those of you that have subscribed. Thank you for those of you that have made it this far through the episode. I know this is a long episode. And thank you for those of you that have stuck with us through this amount of time. And hit me up on Twitter at MidwestGeek-Cali, and again, go to www.midwesterngeekandcali.com if you want a link to Twitter. It's right there on the right hand sidebar on the website. And on that note, LLP. Goodness gracious, I forgot to page up and give you guys the audio. Can you hear me now? Okay. What I was saying is that next week I'm going to do a demo on Peppermint 10 Linux on how to use it. I've already got it installed on a machine, and I'm going to record just using it, doing general stuff just like you would on a Windows PC. It's going to be really simple, and geez, sorry about that audio thing, but I'm not going to can the whole episode for that. Thanks. Yeah. There. All right. coffee, and ooh, I've got some red trolley red ale in there. Have a good one.